Welcome back to my tips and tricks for the summer alpha for Albion Online. This right here is one thing I learned the hard way. Well, let me just explain. So you know how you can make up to tier 3. So you got tier 2 leather and you got tier 3 leather. What I was doing, I was not processing this stuff here and I was not making my gear here either. I was actually running all the way up here to Queen's Mart, which is kind of like the second area. And it's the area that most of the people that are already high level with gear come to do stuff, to buy stuff, to use the auction house. They use places like this right along the border of their area. Why did they do this? Because coming all the way to Middle Cross just takes too long for them and they can't be bothered. Now, in Middle Cross, nobody owns this. It's all NPC owned, if you will. So the computer owns it. The computer sets the rate of taxes. In Queen's Mart, everybody who owns these places. So all these places are all player owned. As you can see, the red ones are ones that you can't craft at because they either need food or resources or something to keep going. But if you were to come here to this Skinner right here, this level 4 Skinner that somebody owns, if I remember right, I think the taxes were somewhere around 50%. But they can charge taxes up to 150%. So say if you're the only one that has at the very beginning of the game, you're the only one in Queen's Mart that has one of these tanners and you're charging 150% because you're the only one that can do tier 3 tanning. Well, the good news is don't even go to Queen's Mart until you're starting to craft tier 4. And at that point, hopefully you have a guild or your own territory that you can craft tier 4 at so you can save some silver. Essentially, if you look here, anything that's green, you do not have to pay for. So that's still true in Queen's Mart. You can still craft tier 2 stuff that's green and not have to pay for it. The part where you start paying for stuff is right here on the blue stuff, tier 3. So if I craft this, it's going to ask me if I want to spend 296 silver. I'm going to hit pay. Now, before when I did that, I was paying upwards of 1,000 to 3,000 to process stuff like this, which is ridiculous. That's a lot of gold. You do that 3 times and that's enough to buy a cheap mount. So it's definitely worth it to make the trip down here while you're leveling up to tier 3. And I would recommend, if you're new to the game, just leveling everything to tier 3 and then moving on. So basically get all your crafting to tier 3 so you can at least make that stuff and try out each of the different kinds of gear to see what kind of build you want to do. So I'm going to let this go right here and then I'm going to show you it's the exact same for if I want to process and make tier 3 gear. And then I'll put one more tip on there. The nice thing about leveling this tier 3 stuff, with it being so cheap here, is you can turn around and salvage it for some good silver. As soon as this completes, I'll go over and make a chest piece and then salvage it to show you how much I can make. Whatever you do, do not press something and cancel this. It really sucks if you do that. Alright, so that was the tanner. Go over here. Right. Oh, wrong place. Alright. Then I'm going to go make this right here. Oh. Just pick any random spell you want, unless you're going to wear it, then kind of look and see what it is. 64 silver. So if it takes 64 silver to make one of these, then I'll bring it over and salvage it and show you how much I make just by salvaging it. This is another way to make some silver. You can always sell it on the auction house. So if I was to salvage it, it would be, I would get 160 back. So about just under 100 silver I'd get back for each one of these that I made. And I usually make the chest if I'm trying to make silver because it takes up less space and the 1-for-1 value is the same because it takes, I think if I remember right, 16 pieces of leather to make the chest and 8 to make boots or a helm. And because it takes less, it takes up more room and you still get the same amount. So if you spent 8 or 16 leather to make the chest, half of that you'd take to make the boots, and you'd still only get 80 back. So it's basically a 1 for 1. For every leather you spend and process this way, you'll get about 60 silver back, or you'll get about 10 silver back. And then if we were to come over here and try selling it, see what they sell for. Alright, so somebody's got an offer right now for 50 silver, which is definitely not worth selling it directly to them for that, because you'd lose so much silver there. Then somebody on here is actually, the cheapest one being sold is 240, but you have to wait for it, and I don't make it down here as much as I'd like to flip it. So for the instant gratification in me, and because it's a little bit harder to sell gear than mats, I'm actually going to throw it on here, of course, every time I'm mounted, and salvage it. Right there, I got my silver. Well, I'll talk to you guys next time.